It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio, also live on Facebook and on YouTube, where it's time for another one of our Gannon University Inspire interviews. And we're glad to welcome back Dr. Sam Mason, and she is the director of the Project NePTWNE at Gannon, and among many other things that you do. Good to see you, Doc.
It's nice to be here.
All righty. So, what does a marine biologist do in the wintertime? Do you go under the ice or something like that? I mean, and of course, do you do all the George Costanza jokes, right?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm technically a chemist.
Okay, we'll get that right.
But yeah, so mostly I'm doing like really boring behind the scenes, like creating policies and procedures for how we're going to use the spaces. It's not terribly sexy stuff, but it's very important stuff. So
this is a crucial time that you're coming to us here, because you're about to open up this. You're presenting this documentary, Ripples of Plastic.
Yeah.
I want to jump right to that because that's coming up next Thursday, the 20th.
Yeah.
And explain the background and you're showing this at the Warner. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal, and I really want to put a shout out to Erie Insurance for sponsoring the event and allowing us to have it at the Warner. It took me a year to pull this together. It was really important to me that it was shown at the Warner. It's such a beautiful and historic building. It's centrally located and accessible to people, and I really wanted this to be free and open to the public. And I really wanted to celebrate Chris Langer, who is the director of the film. So in terms of background, he, during COVID, like everybody, right, he makes media of different types, and everything was shut down during COVID, right? And he was out doing a beach cleanup, and he was shocked at the amount of trash and specifically plastic that he was picking up. And
our Great Lake,
Lake Erie. He's out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So he was on a Cleveland beach doing this cleanup and just shocked. And he thought, well, how can I help this? And since he makes, films, he thought, well, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so for 3 years on his own dime, he traveled, all around Lake Erie and interviewed people like me who did this and put together this incredible 45-minute documentary about, and it's the only documentary, not only just about like freshwater plastic pollution, but Lake Erie plastic pollution. I mean, it's really incredible. And I remember the first time I saw, his sizzle reel. You never know how these things are going to turn out. You're like, okay, this guy's doing it on his own dime. Maybe it's not going to really be that great. But I was crying off of just 2 minutes of watching. And I've watched this movie 5 times now, and every time at the end of it, I'm crying. It's really quite powerful. He did a really good job, and it's not just about kind of the issue, but he interviews a lot of people that are talking about solutions and what can you do as an individual in your community to help this problem. So it's quite an inspiring film. It touches all the right emotions, both in terms of understanding the impact it's having, but also the solutions and how you can be part of that.
You've been in this space for a long time, right?
Yeah.
The idea of single-use plastics, the microplastics, and so on.
Yeah.
How devastating is this situation in Lake Erie? Again, we've all heard about the garbage patch in the Pacific, or what's ridiculous is you go and spend a bunch of money to go on a vacation in Hawaii, and what do you encounter in Hawaii is plastic. On all the beaches, Yeah. But this is Lake Erie. This is where we draw our water. This is where our kids swim.
Yeah,
it's
our lake. It's our lake to be stewards of, and I know. Yeah, you hear a lot about oceanic plastic pollution, and I think what's not as well known is understanding that this is a freshwater issue. This is every compartment of the environment issue, including people. But yeah, I mean, as much as you hear about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, we have our own garbage patch actually, and so the concentrations that we find in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario rival the worst that you find in the world's oceans. Yeah. I mean, this is not like somewhere else. This is here, and when you get into the lakes or the rivers and you're getting closer to the people, the concentrations are even higher. So, I spent a year looking at the 2 litter booms that the city of Erie has and counting and categorizing all of the trash. And it's mostly food packaging. So when you're talking about solutions, that's really the number one thing you can do.
What is a litter boom and what does it do?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No.
I mean, this is my life, so I forget.
Yeah.
So it is basically a string of floats that extends across the river. So one's on Mill Creek and one's on Cascade Creek, and they're on rafters so that they can move up and down as the water level goes up and down, and they're at an angle, so as the river flows it hits this litter boom and it pushes all of the trash into this cement containment unit. So they basically dug out part of the side of the river and put in this cement, and everything moves into there.
And then we have to maintain that.
Yeah, the city goes out and with a backhoe and digs all the trash. But I was going out there 2 times, each location 2 times a week. So 4 days a week, I was out at these litter booms with a pool skimmer, digging out all of this trash and taking it back to my lab and counting it and categorizing it and branding it.
So we're talking things like
bottles. Dog poop bags. Okay, people, dog poop bags do not decompose. Don't throw them down your storm drain. I think that one thing that people don't know is that a lot of our rivers here are buried. So they're hidden, so you don't see them, and you don't realize that anything that goes into a storm drain is going into the river, and that's going directly into the lake, right? So people will throw lawn trimmings down there, which isn't good either, but what's worse is we find every time we were out there, we would find at least one, oftentimes, 5 to 8 dog poop bags that people are throwing down storm drains thinking that they decompose, but they don't. And so bags and bottles and straws, styrofoam, because a lot of people, another kind of thing about this that I think people need to understand is when they hear this, they think, oh, those litter bugs, those people.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, a lot of it is unintentional. And you could go out after any, trash collection day and look down your street, and what you see is trash. Right. And it's, people put out their bins. A lot of people just put out bagged garbage, and trash here is collected at night. And you have squirrels and raccoons and cats and rabbits and all sorts of feral creatures that will dig into our trash to get food. And then they end up strewing trash all down the street. And so a lot of it is unintentional, stuff that falls out when the guys are collecting.
And then
trash.
there's all those aspirational recycling people where they'll throw the clamshell into the recycling bag, and you can't recycle it.
You can't recycle that. Yeah. 1s and 2s, and only the ones that have a screw top.
Yeah.
There's
jars,
a lot of
bottles, and jugs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of that wish cycling.
So we actually have protecting the bay or the lake, kind of like a pre-filter with these booms.
We are lucky in the city of Erie that we have these, and they were installed in the 1980s, and the city of Erie just put in 2 new ones on I think it's not Walnut Creek. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's over near Mill Creek, near the wastewater treatment plant there.
No,
it's not. No, the Cascade's over here. But so the city just put those in, but what's important is that many communities don't have that.
Right.
And so, what I'm seeing when I do that research is I'm seeing what other communities are losing, right? Mm-hmm. Anything that's happening here is happening in every community around the Great Lakes. And so we're getting a snapshot of what's happening in these communities where they don't have these litter booms.
So where do you, if folks come next Thursday to the Warner, again, it's at 5:30. The doors open at 4:30. What would you want them to walk out with? What kind of knowledge base?
I want them to be aware that this is not something that's happening somewhere else. This is something that's happening here, and it's directly connected to us. We are the solution to this problem through our behaviors and by changing kind of what we purchase and how we act as people. And the starting point of that change is the awareness, right? And so that's what I'm really trying to trigger, is that awareness that this is a here problem, not a there problem, right?
Yeah.
and really feeling empowered. So yeah, doors open at 4:30. Come early because you do have to go through all the typical security. It is the Warner Theater. The movie will start at 5:30. It runs to 6:15, and then Chris Langer from Cleveland is going to come in. He's driving in, and then I'm going to be there, and we have it's advertised as Jill bought a lot of it. She got a new job. Congratulations to Jill, which is wonderful. So we have Tish O'Dell coming up from the Pittsburgh area to talk about rights of nature. So the three of us are going to be a panel. Kristen Tallarico from Erie Insurance is going to moderate that. And so we're going to be available to ask questions to understand how the film was made, or about my research, or about what kind of like legislation, regulations could be out there that could help as a solution to this problem.
Dr. Sam Mason is with us. We're talking about Ripples of Plastic, which is a new documentary based in Lake Erie here. I want to pivot to the other work that you're doing with Project NePTWNE. Now, let's talk about the construction project at the library here. Yeah. What's the state of that, and what kind of timelines are you working with there?
Yeah. So we are working to build the Center for Lake Erie Education and Research in the Blasco Library. I'm so excited. The temporary walls went up in early February. Okay. We put the walls up at night. There was some discussion about why we did that. We did that to minimize the impact on the patrons of the library. I think that's really important. We are trying to be very conscientious of the fact that we're in a library. Yeah. And so we put up these temporary walls to minimize the noise and minimize the dust that is being, impacting the patrons. And all of the construction is happening behind those temporary walls. The construction has started. Demolition is, of course, first. So all of the walls and the ceiling and everything have come down. We've saved stuff that the county has asked us to save, like doors and lights. And we're putting in the electrical. Right now, I think they're doing a scan of the cement pad because we need drainage. Sure. For the lab, both the wet lab and the education lab. So we're putting in some really good drainage there. That'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. And then we start really kind of the construction phase. We start putting in the walls, the doors, and everything. So we are looking to open sometime in the fall of 2025. I'm very conscious.
Okay, this is months, not years.
Yeah. Oh, this is months. Yeah. Okay. This is my life. I spend half of my day on construction meetings talking about, we're really getting into the details of everything. It's pretty exciting. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting off of every one of these meetings. I have tons of meetings, but I get off of them and I'm just like, I'm so excited. I tell people at the meeting I had earlier today, I was like, thank you all for helping me make my dreams come true.
That's awesome. So literally your students at Gannon, in addition to other students that are in this space and high school students and so on, will be able to access this probably next school year, 25-26.
Yeah, actually, I'm starting. I was just talking with Jessica, the director of the county library. Yeah. We're actually going to go ahead and start running a program this summer, even though the center won't be open. But it's about starting that connection between what we're doing in the center and what the library is doing. And so we're going to run a 4 to 5 week. We're still working on the details. Summer class, I don't know, for 10 to 14-year-olds. It'll run in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m. We're working on the dates, but it's under the theme of going blue. And so we found this book that we both just purchased. I got mine yesterday on, how a teen guide to water issues within lakes and rivers and streams and wetlands. And so we're going to use that as our guiding point, and we're going to be reading that, and we're going to be doing activities with the kids and engaging them in that. And so this is kind of a microcosm of what we're going to then be doing throughout, all of next academic year. As homeschool kids come in, they come in once a month. Yeah. They're going to be, we're going to be doing educational work with them. As the school groups come in, these school groups tend to be quite large, and so they break them into cohorts, and they take them to the Maritime Center. They do some reading with them. They're going to come to the center. We've been talking with Bayfront Maritime Center about engaging them in these cohorts as well, and educational opportunities. So a lot of conversations already happening about building up that infrastructure that's going to start with this next academic year.
Is there going to be a place right outside your door there for the Aquanaut? Maybe if it's not permanently, moored there, but will you be able to keep the boat close when you need it?
The Environaut.
Environaut, yes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm hoping so. We're in conversations right now with the Port Authority, with PHMC, and with the Bayfront Maritime Center. We actually have a meeting next Monday. So, we're... And all of, any of those decisions obviously will be open to the public and discussions. But that is the hope, is that we can have a place to moor the boat there, because the idea
at least
is,
when you're using it.
Exactly. Yeah, that we can use the education lab to do like the safety training that you have to do. Then you walk out of the back door of the library, you go onto the boat, you go out into the bay, you collect some samples, and you bring them right back in, and you do some science there in the lab. So that's the vision. And so how do we make that happen as easily as possible?
Do you go out and generally you'll always find plastics?
Oh, I have
every time you go out?
Every time. Yeah, I've not collected a sample in I've been doing this for 13, 14, I don't know what year it is. I've been doing this for, a decade and a half.
Yeah.
And every single sample we've ever brought in, whether it's sediment, fish, water, when we look at, we've looked at tap water, we've looked at bottled water, we've looked at beer, we've looked at sea salt. Every single sample that I've ever looked at has had plastic in it. And this is true across the globe. Like, it doesn't matter what environmental compartment. So we find this at the top of Mount Everest. We find this at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. It is everywhere, including in people. And they're starting to develop detectors, actually. And so one of the things that I've been in conversations, we just hired a new director of our health sciences. Mm-hmm. And one of the other kind of other pieces that I'm working on is doing modules within our health sciences, within our nursing and public health, because this is a real big missing area in the plastic pollution conversation, is that you have a lot of health providers who know nothing about this, and yet it's in our blood, it's in our brain. It's leading to gastrointestinal issues. People who have strokes have higher prominence of plastic within their blood, as well as, asthma and various breathing disorders. We're finding in our lungs. It's on both the fetal and the maternal side of the placental boundary. I was just reading a study, Dr. Shauna Swan, who is an endocrinologist and really is focused on procreation. She has a great book called Countdown about how we're having trouble procreating because of all of the chemicals in the environment, and plastics being one of the main ways that these chemicals move into people. It's a fascinating book. And
we have to remember that plastics are made from petroleum.
Exactly.
And
there's 16,000 different chemicals that are used in the manufacturing of plastic. And those chemicals aren't bound, so they leach out. And so she's been doing a really interesting kind of cohort studies when she has couples that are having trouble getting pregnant. She puts them on a plastic detox diet. And after 3 months, she's seeing improvement in their ability to conceive and carry to full term.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got 1 minute left with Dr. Sam Mason. Tell me about the Gannon greenhouse. What's the state of that? How's that looking?
In 1 minute?
I'll give you 2. How's that?
All right. The Gannon greenhouse, we're in the process of getting it back up and running for the season. So
where's it located?
It's located at 4th and Myrtle.
Okay.
And actually, we're about to build a tiny forest at the corner of 3rd and Myrtle. So maybe we can talk about that. Do we have time? I don't know.
Do you put tiny houses near the tiny forest? I'm sorry, it's a joke. But
it's just a lot of trees that are planted together, and actually, despite the fact that they're planted close together, and you think that would increase die-off, it actually enhances their growth. So they grow faster, and they create entire ecosystems in a faster way. John Vanko can tell you all the history of this. It's quite fascinating. But the greenhouse is at 4th and Myrtle. It's in the process of we're putting out the trays, we're planting seeds, growing native species. This is all, of course, under the auspices of the Regional Science Science Consortium, and I want to make sure I give a shout out to them and all the work that they do. And then their native plant sale starts April 1st, and I forget when it runs. I think it runs through mid-May.
Okay.
With the pickup of native species at the beginning of June, and you can buy some native plants and plant them.
I know that the weight of all of this probably weighs heavy on you, but I want to assure you that you have allies throughout the university, throughout the community.
Yeah.
Because we want the better outcomes for this plastic stuff. And so I'm so excited to have you here. Again, Ripples of Plastic, next Thursday, the 20th, 5:30 at the Warner, doors at 4:30, totally free. Get educated. Another one of our Gannon Inspire interviews. It only happens with our support to the campaign for Gannon's next 100 years there. Campaign.gannon.edu. Thank you, Dr. Sam Mason. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate
you got it. It is 3:55. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show here on this Thursday. We're going to pivot from the environment to the business world, and we're going to be talking tariffs here. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation that we've got coming up here with Gretchen from Logistics Plus here. We're going to learn kind of the nitty-gritty that Erie businesses are dealing with given this new enhanced focus on tariffs. What does this mean for the profitability of Erie businesses, and both on folks that are selling stuff that's made somewhere else and folks that are trying to sell stuff that are made here in Erie County? Stay with us. It's Talk Erie.